Have you guys ever wondered what it would be like to be at the place but not actually be at the place? This sounds almost futuristic, but that's exactly where we are headed with the kind of advancements that are happening in augmented reality as well as virtual reality. Our guests for today at IEEE TEM's iCase, which is held every year at Amdor, is none other than Ms. Vaishali Neotia. She's not just an engineer, entrepreneur, a speaker, but she's more of a revolutionist for the kind of technology that she has brought into the country and the kind of technology she is helping, to build the country. So, without further ado, let me introduce you to our guest of today, who is the CEO and co-founder of MERXIUS. MERXIUS is a company which specializes in augmented reality and virtual reality technology. She is also a part of the extremely exclusive Women's Economic Forum and has won numerous leadership awards. So, Vaishali, my first question to you would be, you know, you've achieved so much in life, you've become such a big name. And what would you say was that one, secret ingredient which helped you reach these heights? What was your story? How did you reach here? And what kind of effort and hard work did you have to put in to actually see what we see today? Yeah, over to you, Vaishali.
Wow. Okay, well, thank you, Sukada, for having me here, and thank you for those questions. I think just the bit about who I am. I was just thinking about this joke. Like they say that once somebody discovers who they are, they're enlightened. So
Yeah, yeah,
I think I'm still in the process of discovering that,
yeah,
and it's a story in progress, right? In writing, so. Yeah, so I think for me, I've been enamored with technology for a while. There was never any plan as such that that I would become an entrepreneur. I would start a company. I would start a tech company. I would get into tech. Like there was no plan as such. Growing up, in fact, my friends, my family. I mean, we've been oriented towards taking academic courses around business, around humanities, the commerce and art courses, so to speak. And the idea of doing science or pursuing science as a subject and getting into engineering subsequently was not something that I grew up thinking about. But I think for me it was more of exploring uncharted territories and pushing my boundaries in just sort of understanding why is it
yeah,
not being
yeah,
done,
yeah,
or can't be done, or shouldn't be done, and all of that,
yeah,
right? So I think it was just sort of me exploring new territory, and that's how that happened.
yeah,
I think even starting the company, I mean, growing up, I had this sense that at some point I would, be an entrepreneur, in the typical definition of the word, starting a company. But the plan around when, how, what, why wasn't really clear. And so it was a bit organic. I mean, after I finished engineering, there was this, there was a series of things that happened, and it helped me kickstart my
yeah,
entrepreneurial journey right then.
yeah,
And then there's just been no looking back, because
mm,
I think the sum of who I am right now, as I speak to you, as we have this conversation,
mm,
is essentially everything that I have um, been up till this point. All of those
yeah,
experiences have added to make me who I am today,
mm,
and it'll change tomorrow and the day after and at
yeah,
some point in the future. So
yeah,
I think yeah, it's been exciting, and I believe in technology. I mean, I love the power of technology as a tool. I believe that we are the most technologically advanced humans in all of human history. And even this conversation we're having right now is would have been unheard of even a decade ago, with the clarity, with the speed, this real-time conversation. Technology can be a very powerful tool if put to good use.
yeah,
right? And there's so many um, ways in which synergistic, sustainable conveniences can be brought about. Like they say that tech is a tool, and there's just so much around its usage today, which is sometimes, especially around in certain ways, and the idea of what tech can be put to, or what use it can be put to, really, I mean, it stems from not the technology being good or bad, but the people behind it,
yeah,
and the use cases that they're putting it to.
yeah,
I mean, I could use AI for deep fakes, or I could use it, to save lives. I mean, at the end of the day, it's what I do with it. And so I think the onus is on all of us,
yeah,
to understand the power of technology as a tool, and to be able to put it to constructive and constructive uses, and look at environmentally sustainable ways of doing the same, making lives better.
yeah,
We're already, we're so privileged, we're so advanced today,
yeah,
with amenities and conveniences that even one generation ago they didn't have.
yeah,
And so I think, I'm glad to be where I am. Let's just
yeah,
put it that way.
yeah,
I think it's an exciting time for all of us, and there's a lot, like you said, that is still to be done. Yeah.
yeah. So, on the note of there is a lot still to be done. Where do you actually see these technologies going forward? Like, what are the areas do you think they will influence the most? Uh, or where do we see these technologies growing and getting into other things like in the near future and as well as in the uh, distant future as well? Like, how do you see this going?
Right. I think, if you look at the all pervasive nature of technology, what field or sector or area of our lives has it not touched?
Yeah,
And so, I see different technologies today. I mean, we have machine learning, we have
yeah,
extended reality, we have blockchain.
yeah.
I think every technology, and even when used synergistically,
Mm-hmm.
has so many use cases in different sectors,
Mm-hmm.
starting from healthcare to education to industrial use cases, to defense use cases. There's just so much. So it's just blue sky possibilities, and I am not really seeing a limitation. I mean, there's this famous quote by Arthur Clarke, where he says, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. I mean, some of the
Mm-hmm.
things that we're able to do today would
Yeah,
basically be magic to somebody
definitely.
in,
Yeah.
in 1950, for example, right?
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
even some of the things where we will go, and a lot of science fiction movies give us an insight. I think where we could go is pretty much anywhere, right? Like we just
Yeah.
don't know what we don't know, but it's
Yeah.
exciting. And like I said, hopefully it'll be in the right places,
Yeah.
doing the right thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah. When you just said about the 1950s, I was just reminded of these old Bond movies where they used to have these flying cars and all those things, and the fact that it can actually be a possibility today that we do have trains which have a certain distance, they have this magnetic repulse effect because of which they run in Japan. So the thing is that we are actually on that path. So we never know. The sci-fi movies of today may you know by all means become our future. Speaking of you being the CEO, what do you do for normalcy? Like because we really want to know. We are at at the start of our careers, and you're like how is it different being a CEO? Like what is different, and what is the one normal thing that you usually do?
Well, first off, let me break the glamorous bubble for you. One of the one of the biggest things about being in a leadership position, whether
Yeah,
it's a CEO, CTO,
yeah,
any CXO, or just a management leadership position,
yeah,
is is the decision making, and then standing by those decisions, and then dealing with the consequences of all of those decisions, because
Yeah.
literally the buck is stopping with you at some level.
Yeah.
And at different levels people experience this.
Mhm.
And when it's your own company, when you're literally like the sort of like the last person in the line,
Yeah.
really, like the buck is stopping with you. And so any decision that you take is, whatever repercussions it'll have,
Yeah.
it was about you having taken that decision. And so I think that is something that we often discount, how important it is to be able to take the call firstly,
Yeah.
make a decision, whatever it
Yeah.
is, because
Yeah.
decisions are good and bad only in hindsight. When
Yeah.
they're being taken, they're taken with the best intent, with to the best knowledge of the person, with all the information that is there at
Hmm.
one's disposal. And then going forward, just sort of sticking with it, and then learning from what happened, and then building on it. I
Yeah.
think this is something that I would say is definitely differentiates somebody in a leadership position from anyone else, because the entire process, we underestimate how much of a toll it can take.
Yeah.
And one of the traps that we need to stay away from consciously is
Yeah.
questioning our decisions, and sort of trying to go back and second guess what was done, because at the end of the day, with what we know of time today, it's linear, it's unidirectional.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of pointless to ruminate unless it's done for the purpose of reflection and learning and moving
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Sort of doing a hypothetical what if it could have been better
Yeah.
is pointless, because as much as something could have been better, it could have been worse as well.
Yeah.
And so I think that bit is something that has to be looked out for. But I would say this is the one thing that differentiates a CXO. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of, the mistakes all of us do make, what were the challenges, or, what were the failures that you experienced which actually, made you into who you are? Like, you did mention earlier as well that it's a learning process. It's an ongoing learning process. So, how did you learn from these failures or these challenges to, actually grow your business even more?
I think at the end of the day, it's a personal journey, it's a personal growth journey. We evolve as people. And that's why I said it's a story in progress, because it's
Yeah.
still being written. I'm still part of it. And it's
Yeah.
the journey of being receptive to new ideas, to new perspectives, to different ways of doing things, to new experiences, being able to unlearn, relearn, learn.
Yeah.
I think that's the bit that matters.
Mhm.
The thing about failure is essentially, I mean, especially us Indians, we make failure such a big deal, that it's something that shouldn't happen, and
Yeah.
you should never fail. And
Yeah.
you we assume that everybody should just be successful from the get-go.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
problem with that is, firstly, success has is subjective, right?
Yeah.
Your definition of success would be different from mine.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
similarly with failure, I mean, what you would consider failure, I may consider a success.
Yeah.
And so I think just having the mindset, the risk-taking mindset, which is probably what sets entrepreneurs apart,
Yeah.
from everyone else, is that initiative-taking and risk-taking mindset, where they're willing to sort of succeed, fail, whatever,
Yeah.
taking it as two sides of a coin, and going into it with the idea that this is experience,
Yeah.
and this is learning experience for me, whatever the outcome is and however it's looked at. But I'm going in with a learning mindset. And I think that has, and of course, I'm not saying that this is something that I've always done. I've learned
Yeah.
the hard way as well. I mean,
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
been there where I've second guessed myself. I've had this imposter syndrome kick in.
Yeah.
I've wanted to sort of go back and change things. I've been
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah.
I should have done this, I should have done that. But I think what's important is, and of course, even like taking a leap of faith sometimes becomes very challenging, because you're thinking about not just the immediate repercussions, but long term repercussions, and a larger effect.
Definitely.
that your decision could have. And with all of that thinking and overthinking, it can become a
Yeah.
vicious loop. So
Yeah.
but I think the bottom line being that at the end of the day, going in and doing something is going to be a learning experience, irrespective, and it's going to change your life and make it better in some way, whatever the outcome is. And
Yeah.
so just to sort of go ahead and do it,
Yeah.
instead of sitting and being stuck in this indecisive, limbo where you're just like a deer in headlights. You're just
Yeah.
stuck, you're frozen because you can't take a decision because you think the one you'll take will be wrong.
Yeah.
But that's actually worse than taking the decision itself.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've come to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On a lighter note, I would like to ask you, who are the three
Mhm.
entrepreneurs or, three, let's say, tech people or business people, which you would like to take out to lunch? Like, if you were given a choice, and why? Why those three people would like to have lunch with them? Like, what would the conversations go?
Sorry,
What would you
take
ask
out
them?
to lunch.
Yeah, three people you get,
You're
you
saying take
can,
out to lunch.
yeah, take them out to lunch, and you get to have a conversation with them, and we would also like to know why you want to have that conversation with them.
Interesting. I think first off would probably be everything that he knew and what he was doing, and sort of saw the writing on the wall, and was able to take that opportunistic leap into into business, and starting this whole brand, and building it to this level.
Yeah.
I would love to understand that thought process and how some of that worked out, and is working out, and the thought process behind it. I think I would definitely want to have that conversation. um, I think another entrepreneur that I would like to meet is Elon Musk. Um, I think a sense of, because he thinks in a very different way,
Yeah.
and it would be interesting to get some level of insight, and where a lot of his thought processes begin. I think that would be interesting. And some of the things that he's done, and how he's sort of taken those leaps, of faith, or whatever propelled that leap for him, and how they came about. So I would definitely want to meet him. You didn't mention, whether, since it's hypothetical, whether it's alive or whether
Yeah.
posthumous. But I
Yeah.
think if I could meet somebody who's not here anymore, I would definitely want to meet Steve Jobs. I think, and more towards the end of his life, because he again underwent so many experiences in his life. The journey through spirituality, to running a company, to being kicked out of a company, and all of the lessons that he's had, and then his personality shifts, so to speak. I would love to have a conversation with him as well. um, yeah, so those are three people that I can immediately think of.
Yeah. uh Going, I think, a little bit more on, maybe a slightly more serious topic. So, how are Indians perceived in on the global platform? Like, because uh we don't have these flashy brands, we don't have a Nike, we don't have an Adidas, we don't have your fancy Dunkin' Donuts or something like that. And a similar, kind of trend goes for technology. They have their Apple, they have their, Amazon, and all these things. So how is India perceived in the global platform, A, on business, and B, also on the basis of technology? Like, how do they view Indian entrepreneurs?
I think the rest of the world is, from my understanding and interactions thus far, um, the rest of the world is quite interested in India as a market.
Yeah.
It's a very, very strongly emerging market. It's growing. Our country has like the maximum, youth population today.
Yeah.
I mean, we're young people, right? It's a nation
Hmm.
of a majority of young people. So
Yeah.
this is, this is essentially where things are happening, will happen. And there's a lot of interest, from the business perspective and all angles. um, I think with regards to entrepreneurship, we are seeing rapid and major shifts in the Indian ecosystem already. We have, of course, lagged behind in many ways, but now there's
Yeah.
so many things coming together in the ecosystem.
Mm.
The uh, government support, the venture capital support, the entrepreneurs themselves. We've always been innovative and
Yeah.
inventive and
Yeah.
creative, and there's
Definitely. Yeah.
always been that talent here, right? But
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that has happened is, because there often haven't been too many next stage events, like for example an exit, or
Yeah.
getting into, say, a unicorn stage or something like that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not been very that hasn't been earlier. And so a lot of companies would end up flipping, to
Mm.
another country, whether
Mm.
it's the US or whatever other country, right?
Yeah.
um, just to sort of expand that market and their own value.
Yeah.
And in that sense, the value of Indian startups,
Mm.
I think it's our own perspective as well, but
Yeah.
we are undervalued. If I'm doing the same thing in the US, for example, I would definitely be valued more, right?
Mm.
That's a thought process that a lot of, especially techies, go with when they're flipping, and a lot of it is true. But if your market is India, if you're looking at the at the Indian market, to be functioning in, and that's your customer base, then there's immense value. I mean, some of the companies in the country today, they've gotten so much foreign investment, because of their potential, because of the potential of this market. And I think the perspective, the global perspective, is changing as well. What also needs to change is our own perspective of ourselves. I mean, starting out, I remember the same thing that we were doing, and in fact we were in many cases doing it better. But the companies were willing to pay more, much more, and go ahead and accept technology if it came from Germany or Japan, or or Korea or the US. But the same thing being indigenous was just very difficult to digest, because there was this concept of, will it be good? um, and I think, with access, how small the world has become with globalization. I think we're already there. I mean, some of the technology in the country today is at world class level. Some of the things that we ourselves have done in our company, has been, pretty much a first. Like we've created this extended reality software, which is a no code platform, allows engineering companies, with no coding expertise at all, to be able to use and repurpose their existing CAD data into extended reality training experiences, by themselves, right? That's something that is pretty much a first, for anywhere. So it's not that we aren't there already. We're getting there, but the ecosystem support that was lacking, I think now that's coming together. So we'll see a lot of changes, but I think the perspective is changing, both internally as well as externally.
Um, I would like to ask, because you mentioned how difficult it is to be decisive and how difficult it is to manage an organization. I would like to ask you, what is that one underrated managerial skill which is essential but is often overlooked in terms of, trying to emulate that or to become that in some way?
Empathy. I think empathy is highly underrated. I myself have in the past viewed, my um, empathetic tendencies as making me weak, or as sort of not being um, right, for what I was doing, because there's this sense of serving, of being, selfish, of serving your self-interest all the time, and that you need to be cutthroat, or that you need to sort of go into a negotiation, being the more powerful person, and walking away with like whatever you can get. I mean, there are just so many misconceptions around so many of these concepts, but I think empathy can be a superpower if used or accepted in the right way. To be able to understand someone else's perspective, to really understand where someone else is coming from, is a very, very powerful skill or ability to have. And it cannot be underscored enough. So, yeah, I would definitely say empathy.
Yeah, that's a very interesting and quite, I think, an insightful approach to take, because empathy is very often quoted but not really practiced in a lot of our lives. And I think this is a very important insight that we've got from you. Now, like, again, now this is a very, very, I know that this is a very Indian mindset to take, but we always have this ki yaar, was it luck or was it hard work? Like we never give, like most of the people, some of them are like, yeah, it was hard work, and the other person is like, no, it was luck, some sort of luck that this person was able to achieve or do something that they wanted. So, in your opinion, that how much of the percentage does luck have, and how much of it is hard work?
Does it matter? I mean, at the end of the
Actually,
day,
no.
like I said earlier, around the decision
Yeah,
making as well, right?
yeah,
What's happened has happened. I mean, it's
yeah,
in the past, looking at time linearly,
yeah,
unidirectionally.
yeah,
So it doesn't matter how we got where we got. The point is,
yeah,
let's just use what we have and keep going forward. And to be honest, whether it's you know, if you have to look at these two distinctly, right? Whether it's hard work or whether it's luck, what is in my control is the hard work. The luck bit is not in my control. And
yeah,
so all I can anyways do is do what I know, and do what I know in the best way that I can, and then leave it up to this idea of luck or providence or destiny. It's like the Gita says, right?
yeah,
Karm karte jao, phal ki chinta mat karo. Keep doing your duty and don't worry about the fruits of your labor, because that's beyond your control.
yeah,
um, or your realm of expertise, or anything you can do
yeah,
about, right?
yeah,
And so, yeah, I mean, assuming that going forward with the assumption that, hey, everything I'm doing is because of my hard work, and so I'm just going to work hard, if that's
yeah,
what drives you, because
yeah,
the bit is anyways out of your hands. And then
yeah,
accepting that, if things don't work. I mean, I put in my effort. I mean, I've done what I could. There's nothing else that I could have done beyond that. I think the problems pop up when we think we could have done more.
mm,
And so to just sort of accept that, okay, this is what I knew, this is what I was able to do to the best of my abilities, and the rest, was not up to me, so it's okay. And things happen and we move on, whether it results in my definition, subjective definition of success or failure. The idea is I put in my best, so if whatever happened, it happened.
yeah. So we have a fun little segment called Hit or Miss, which is basically our version of rapid fire round. And I'm going to give you a set of words, which you just have to tell me what you feel in a sentence or two at the max. All right? Are you ready?
Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
So the
Born
first,
ready.
yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. So the first one is knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah,
um, Knowledge is learning, unlearning, relearning.
yeah. Uh, food.
I think you've frozen. Yeah, okay, you're back.
Yeah, yeah. Food. I said food.
Food.
Yeah.
Uh, Food. Oh my God, that's
It
my
has to be
nemesis in
like
some
like I
ways,
like
and
I said. Yeah,
nothing in
like
some ways.
yeah, like I said, it has to be rapid and it has to be fire, like Karan Johar always says. So yeah, you have to answer really quickly. First thing that comes off your mind. Hyderabad.
Um, Chennai. Charminar.
All right. Artificial
And Irani
intelligence.
chai.
Okay, and artificial intelligence.
Sorry, your voice is breaking,
Yeah, I'm sorry. Hello, can you hear me now?
Um, yeah, yeah, now I can hear you.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, artificial intelligence.
Machine learning.
Okay. India.
Mera Bharat Mahan.
Marxist.
My baby.
That's a very interesting answer, and I would have expected no
Wait, you did
less.
say Mauritius, right? Because
Yeah,
your
yeah,
voice broke there.
yeah. I did say that. I
Okay,
did
okay.
say that. Yeah, definitely. No,
That would have been
I
very
did.
awkward.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
No. Yeah. Democracy. Democracy.
Sham.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you on that. Favorite place to chill?
My room.
Yeah, currently, yeah. But if you were allowed to travel, where would you travel? Like, what would be the first country you would want to travel to once this gets over? Hello?
First country.
Yeah, the first country you would want to travel to once it gets over,
Yeah,
once
did
this
you
gets
ask
over.
what's the first country that I would travel to?
Yeah, once this gets over, once this is all over, where would you go?
Indonesia.
Oh,
Indonesia.
that's a pretty good answer.
Yeah, I'd like to go to Indonesia.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so we are at the end of our podcast, and Vaishali, I cannot tell you how fun it was to interact with you, because I think this is a space which we never see CEOs let their hair down and have this informal conversation with us. To let us see behind the scenes and get some insights as to maybe someday I can also reach there, and I can also do these things as well. So thank you so much. We are
Yeah.
very happy. We were very happy to have you on this podcast, and it was an amazing experience speaking to you. Thank you, Vaishali. Any parting advice? Anything?
I would just say that, everybody watching this, listening to me, you're already where you can or should be. And
Yeah,
everything is just better from here. I mean,
yeah,
it's we're all the same people. We're all
yeah,
just, from the same consciousness, and
yeah,
whatever we want, our lives, we make ourselves, and it's
yeah,
subjective, right? Happiness is subjective. So,
yeah,
yeah, let's sort of look at it that way, and it'll be
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
It is good.
It was a pleasure speaking with you, Vaishali. Not only was it an amazing experience for me to ask you those questions, but also, to get your perspective the on where our technology is going and what we can expect in the future. At the same time, I would like to say that you are an inspiration for all the students at IIM Indore as well as elsewhere to actually take the leap and start, putting in money for their own business and start being an entrepreneur for those who really want to pursue that path. Thank you so much for being here. It was wonderful speaking with you. On behalf of IIM Indore and IEEE TIMS, I would like to thank you for your valuable time and your valuable insights which you shared with us. All right. Thank you. Thank you, guys.